We all know that volcanoes can cause massive destruction when they erupt. They can literally wipe entire cities off the map, like what happened to Pompeii during the Roman Empire, or completely devastate entire regions, like Mount St. Helens did in the United States. But could a volcano, with a powerful enough eruption, actually destroy all human civilization on the planet? In the past, volcanoes have come pretty close to doing just that. First, we need to understand something called the Volcanic Explosivity Index, or VEI. This is a scale used to measure the size and power of volcanic eruptions. The scale runs from 0, representing a relatively small eruption that happens all over the world pretty frequently, to 8, which stands for a colossal mega eruption with consequences that could rival an asteroid impact. Eruptions at this level only happen about once every 50,000 years on average. To get a sense of how powerful volcanoes can really be, consider that the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, which wiped out ancient Pompeii, and the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980, both rank as a level 5 on this scale. Now, that's pretty incredible when you consider that the Mount St. Helens eruption released 24 megatons of energy, about 1,600 times the power of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. That tells us that the power levels of eruptions only get more shockingly intense from there. Maybe the best-known level 6 volcanic eruption was the Nightmare of Krakatoa in 1883. This volcano, located on an island in Indonesia, exploded with an astounding force of 200 megatons. That's 13,000 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb, and 4 times more powerful than the Tsar Bomba, the largest nuclear device ever detonated by humans. And by the way, we have a video on the channel all about atomic bombs if you want to check that out. This epic explosion produced the loudest sound ever recorded in human history. It was so intense that it ruptured the eardrums of sailors who were 40 miles away and was even heard as far away as Perth, Australia. We also have an entire video about the sound created by this explosion. It's pretty mind-blowing. Almost the entire island where the volcano stood was utterly destroyed. The blast was so powerful that it launched coral reefs that had been lying dormant on the ocean floor for centuries up into the air, as if they were asteroids. The eruption also triggered 100-foot tsunamis that tore through the rest of Indonesia. All the inhabitants of the neighboring island of Subesi were killed instantly, and altogether, up to 120,000 people lost their lives on nearby islands due to this catastrophe. There were even reports of human skeletons found in makeshift rafts that had drifted all the way to the eastern coast of Africa about a year after the explosion. But perhaps the worst part of all is the massive amount of ash that volcanoes throw into the atmosphere. These ash clouds can block out sunlight and lead to dramatic drops in global temperatures. In the case of Krakatoa, global temperatures fell by 1.2 degrees Celsius in the following year and didn't return to normal for 4 years. The ash in the atmosphere also created strange optical effects, making the moon look blue or even green. Some believe that the famous painting The Scream, for example, may actually represent what the sky looked like in Norway after the eruption. Another deadly level 6 eruption happened exactly 100 years before Krakatoa, this time in Iceland. That eruption released more sulfur dioxide into the Earth's atmosphere in just a few months than all of modern Europe's combined industrial output. For 3 years, it created a toxic cloud that killed 50% of all animal life in Iceland, leading to a famine that wiped out 25% of the island's human population. The toxic cloud then spread across Europe, where it claimed the lives of 23,000 people in Britain alone due to the poisonous gases. Now, if we're feeling bold, we can talk about what a level 7 eruption would be like. One of these eruptions triggered the largest explosion ever witnessed in recorded history, just 2 centuries ago in 1815, again on an island in Indonesia. This explosion launched 400 million tons of ash into the atmosphere, plunging the entire planet into a year-long winter. All life on the island where it erupted was annihilated, and an area within 600 kilometers was shrouded in darkness for days. The year 1816 became known as the Year Without a Summer because snow fell in New York and Maine in June, and Quebec received 30 centimeters of snow that same month. This eruption was undoubtedly catastrophic, with immediate death tolls possibly reaching 100,000. But it may have also triggered global famines as the colder temperatures destroyed crops around the world. But going back about 75,000 years, a colossal volcano may have brought humanity to its very brink of extinction. The Toba supervolcano, also in Indonesia, erupted with a level 8 force on our scale. This prehistoric event was 3,000 times more powerful than Mount St. Helens and spewed out 100 times more ash than the 1815 Tambora explosion. There was so much ash that it could bury the entire city of Luxembourg under a kilometer of it, or all of Argentina under a meter. This eruption threw the planet into a winter lasting a decade, with global temperatures dropping as much as 15 degrees Celsius. Early humanity was nearly wiped out, with the global population possibly shrinking to just 3,000 people. Yet, against all odds, humanity somehow managed to survive. Which leads us to the big question: what would happen if a level 8 supervolcano erupted today? The most likely and devastating candidate would be the Yellowstone supervolcano in the United States. The entire Yellowstone National Park is actually hiding a massive volcano just beneath visitors' feet. It's had 3 level 8 eruptions over the past 2 million years, with the most recent one happening 640,000 years ago. Right now, there's enough magma in the volcanic system below Yellowstone's surface to fill the Grand Canyon 11 times over, or bury all of the Netherlands under a kilometer of molten rock. It's estimated that the volcano has about a 1 in 700,000 chance of erupting each year, which is absurdly unlikely. But what if we were ridiculously unlucky? Here's a map showing the potential devastation. The states of Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana would be largely buried under a meter of ash, making them uninhabitable. Anyone who didn't evacuate these 3 states would likely not survive the aftermath of the blast. Salt Lake City and Denver would also probably experience significant damage and casualties. The only parts of the continental United States that might escape any ashfall would be southern Texas and southern Florida. This event would likely create either the largest mass grave or the biggest refugee crisis in history, as entire states of people would need to evacuate and probably head east. The entire western United States would be completely devastated, and the nation's agricultural production would grind to a halt. This would become the biggest disaster in history, likely throwing the US into an economic depression multiple times worse than the 1929 stock market crash. This, in turn, would plunge the world economy into a severe depression, and with a 10-year winter caused by lingering ash in the atmosphere, massive crop failures, and widespread famine, the world would become a much colder, more chaotic, and terrifying place. Human civilization might be forever altered by such an eruption, and who knows what catastrophic changes it would bring. But it's likely that it wouldn't completely wipe us out as a species. Life would continue, one way or another, as it always has. While land-based volcanic eruptions are the most well-known, the majority of Earth's volcanic activity actually occurs underwater, with so-called submarine volcanoes. These underwater volcanoes play a crucial role in forming new oceanic crust, especially along mid-ocean ridges. Submarine volcanic activity is also responsible for releasing gases like carbon dioxide and sulfur into the atmosphere, which has influenced global climate over millions of years. Not everything about volcanic eruptions is bad. They can have significant effects on global climate, mainly through the release of sulfur aerosols into the stratosphere. These aerosols reflect sunlight back into space, causing a cooling effect on Earth. A recent example was the eruption of Mount Pinatubo, which led to a temporary drop of about 0.5 degrees Celsius in the global average temperature. The persistence of these particles in the atmosphere can influence climate patterns and extreme events, such as droughts and storms.